Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. There we go. Good evening, malcontents. This is the Malcontent. And I probably need to push the volume up a little bit more on the microphones here. There we go. That's a little better. Red leather, yellow leather. Hey, there we go. Sorry about that. We're OG style tonight. What does that mean? What is OG style? Let me move that camera over a little bit. We're in Studio One. Jennifer has the night off. And we are not doing a show tomorrow. So OG style, if you weren't doing this 2 years ago, it was unscripted. It was more raw, a lot more raw, and a lot more, I think, interactive because I was a lot more engaged in the chat and the people engaged in our chat. And so there's a fair number of things to talk about and unpack tonight. There's actually a lot of stuff. And I guess the first thing that I'm going to start with, if we weren't OG style, this would, of course, get all this stylized intro and all. But the first thing I want to talk about is this racist incident that's happened out in Pasco, Washington. We have this on our website. See, this is the cool thing about the OG style. Let me do this. Go. There you go. There's the link if you want to read the story up on our website. By the way, how many people have voted in the poll? Whoa. That story blew up. Not only did that story blow up, boy, that's a mono view poll. So let's talk about here what happened out in Pasco, Washington. I know there's Pasco, Florida. This isn't, and we like to at Pasco, Florida because they're in the news all the time. I am not getting any audio. You people aren't getting audio? This says there's plenty of audio. Really? But I'm not getting any audio. Can you not hear me? There, people are saying I hear you. I don't know. So whoever's not getting audio, turn up your volume or turn on your speakers. Okay, stop me in my tracks because we have a lot of audio problems. Let's go back to Pasco, Washington, what happened here. So Pasco, Washington High School, there's an incident involving two seniors. Graduation date's June 9th, so there's just a few weeks of school left up there. Classmate who is mixed race, Black, and another race, ask another classmate for help. The classmate says, hey, you come over here. That classmate's like, no, you come over here. And then that classmate looks at the mixed race classmate and says, since when do slaves say no? Yeah, that's what they said. Since when do slaves say no? The student that this was directed to actually did not report this. Another student in the room reported it to a teacher. So this happened in school. And then that teacher escalated it to school administration. On Friday, the mother of the student went into the office and met with Rodney DeHaan, who is the dean of students, and Greg Domingos, who is the assistant principal at Pasco High School. They had about a 1-hour meeting, and DeHaan's position was that the student who made the statement and didn't break any Washington state laws, and that essentially their hands were tied and there is nothing that they could do. So Pasco High School, and again, we have this on our link. We put the link up there in the chat. You might have to scroll for it. I go ahead and drop it again. I'll drop the link again. There you go. If you want to read the story, the link's there. According to the Pasco High School Rights and Responsibility document, Section 8 specifically includes verbal abuse as something that is actionable by the school. And there's nothing in Section 8 as opposed to the specific section on bullying, harassment, and intimidation, which points to RCW, which is Washington state law. The Section 8 is kind of this catch-all that doesn't have any specific law to it. There's nothing in there about criminality equaling actionability. In that conversation, the mother explained to the school officials, saying calling her a slave is just like calling her the N-word in my eyes. And DeHaan, in particular, the dean of students, dug in and said, no, it's not, paraphrasing. And her response was, how can you tell me it's not the same thing? You're not black. You'll never be. How can you tell me how to feel about what was said to my child? So during the weekend, because the social media post was done over the weekend, the school reached out to her. There was a second meeting, and that was with Sarah Thornton, who's the assistant superintendent of legal services for the school district. The other thing that happened is we reached out on Monday and contacted the school and said, hey, we're doing a story on this. We're going to press on Wednesday. We're looking for a statement from the Pasco School District on what's going on here and what is the school going to do. And I'll read the statement we got from the school. So met with, again, the assistant superintendent of legal services with the school district. And there was an email that came out, and Sarah Thornton had outlined 3 things that they're going to be doing. The first thing is they're going to continue the investigation of the incident itself between the students and the responses of DeHaan and Domingos when she spoke to them. One of the things that the school said, and I quote, we have let you down, or the school district has let you down, unquote. They're also going to investigate the student's behavior towards Kinsey's daughter, and that will be handled by a principal at a different school. So not at Pasco High School. That investigation will go to a different school. There's some other steps that are going to be taken. We elected not to publish that information to protect some of the parties involved. The third thing that the school district is doing is they're hiring an outside third-party investigator, and that third-party investigator will do, and I quote, include review of our policies and speaking to other students, staff, and parents about concerns with bias or discrimination. The investigator would help the superintendent identify specific areas for action by district staff, and that they would follow up with the parent in this case to give the timeline. One of the things that we have a concern is they're both seniors and graduation is January 9th. And this was one of the reasons when we did the reach out, when this story was brought to our attention over the weekend, that in speaking to the parent and going, we need to shine a flashlight on this, because the initial response that she had on Friday really felt like we could run the clock out, right? It's May 17th on Monday, because remember, this happened over the weekend. So May 17th is Monday. You have Memorial Day weekend between now and June 9th when these kids graduate. They can get to June 9th You just make this go away. Make it go away. Which is what Marysville tried to do and what the Kirkland School District did. Kirkland School District ran out the clock on their incident in January of 2020 because, hey, COVID, and we don't have to talk about it anymore. And I was like, no, that shouldn't be the case. So the school districts released a public statement, and that public statement comes from Shane Eniger, who's public affairs director, and I'm just going to read it word for word. The district was notified of the concern on Friday evening. The superintendent and school district staff contacted the family over the weekend to begin looking into the report. To respect the privacy of the family, our students, our staff, no further details will be provided by the district at this time. We are taking this report very seriously and are working diligently to understand exactly what occurred, why it occurred, and how those involved were impacted. Our priority is to support the student and family and to ensure our school's environment is inclusive and sensitive to the experiences of all of our students and family. The Pasco School District is 76% minority, 71% Latinx. However, Black is just 1%. State average is 4%. We did reach out to the NAACP in Yakima. We reached out to them twice, and they did not respond to our inquiry into this. Excuse me. I'm going to drink a little. As far as the student that was impacted by this, she's having to be in the classroom with the same student that said this to her, and she doesn't want to be in the class with this student, which I think everything is understandable. And instead of, kind of celebrating her last 3 weeks and also being able to do it in school and, the COVID numbers are going in the right direction, this is the whole thing hanging over the head. I will say, on the surface, Pasco Washington School District, so far, after initially kind of going like, what are we going to do? People have their attention now, and I think Pasco was doing the right thing or in the process of trying to do the right thing, but I think the proof comes in the final deliverables from them and what comes out of it, or do they kind of try to run the clock out? So that story up on our website. I would say that's our lead story tonight. Next story that I want to talk about was a report in CBS News today where they interviewed acting Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz. What was one of the demands of protesters? Defund Seattle Police by 50%, right? That's one of the original demands. Well, according to Acting Chief Diaz in this CBS News report, national, not local affiliate, Seattle has lost 20% of its police force in the last 18 months and has had about 260 officers leave the force. They interviewed an officer for this story, who 27-year veteran. The officer is a black man. They made sure to point that out in the article. They've decided to take early retirement because they felt like he had to just watch. It's like this whole Seattle is dying narrative. We have talked to all but two of the mayoral frontrunners. We have another interview scheduled for the 28th, and we are working on Corey Corey Six Killer. I hope I got their first name right. If I got their first name wrong, somebody roast me in the comments, and I will get their name right. But I believe it's Corey Six Killer. Anyway, back to there. Jennifer's actually in the comments. She can go ahead and roast me. It's Corey Six Killer, I think. That's the only person we don't have lined up at this point. We've either interviewed everybody at this point or lined up. Every single of those mayoral candidates is like, Seattle's not dying. And I wouldn't say Seattle has a weird idea of who is politically right. I know there's some people that we've interviewed, the people are like, they're as far right as you can get. And I'm like, there may be centrist. Right? There's certainly nobody there's certainly nobody that we've interviewed that I would feel like, is a Trumper or something. I mean, that's kind of where the right is at, right? And there's just nobody we've interviewed. No one is a front runner in that space. I believe there's 2 more days to go for registration, and that'll be it, and we'll know who will jump in at this point. So, another tidbit that came out of that story in CBS News. $840 million has been cut nationally. So all of the police forces around the country, about $840 million has been cut. Now, it sounds like a huge number, right? $840 million. Oh, my goodness. To give you some of that perspective, that is like the police budget for San Francisco and then like a mid-sized city. It's like 2 Seattles. That's it. It doesn't even represent 1% of the civilian police budget in the United States, which is $118 billion. By the way, I just saw this thing. Yeah, spam some hearts. Spam some hearts for our mods and admins. Who right now are just, they have no speaker notes, they have no poll, they have no nothing, and they're just probably like, what's he gonna do tonight? How many followers are we gonna lose tonight because he's gonna say something obnoxious? On the subject of obnoxious, there's a really obnoxious story that is coming out of Louisiana. We're going to preface this next little clip here with a warning that this is going to be an extremely difficult video to watch. His name is Donald Green. Say his name, because we have another name to the list of, you have to be friggin' kidding me. What's going on? I'm so confused. So I'm like reading the comments and I'm like, what? So Donald Green was got involved in a high-speed police chase with the Louisiana State Police about 2 years ago. The Louisiana State Police report initially was he died in a car accident in a high-speed chase when his car hit a tree. And then for the next 2 years, the Louisiana State Police stonewalled the release of the body cam videos of the incident. The Associated Press released about 2 minutes. Not even that. They released less than 2 minutes of body cam video and an analysis from a use of force expert. Now, remember when you watch this video, the Louisiana State Police said he died upon impact in a car accident when he hit a tree, and then stonewalled the investigation for 2 years. And with that, I'm going to roll this clip.
Mr. Green was, to some degree, even though he had just finished leading police officers on a lengthy and a high-speed chase, his inclination at that particular point was to acquiesce to what the officers wanted.
Let me see your hands! Put your hands behind your back, bitch. Give me your fucking hands. Put your hands behind your back. Taser, taser. Put your hands behind your back. Behind your back. You're about to get it again if you don't put your fucking hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. I'm sorry.
What's problematic for me is that Mr. Green is now left on the ground, on his stomach, handcuffed in a prone position. And officers are trained throughout the United States that once there's a struggle of this nature, and the individual's handcuffed, that you need to push him off onto his side or get him in a sitting position so you can allow that breathing to be unimpeded by his own body weight.
This guy ain't got fucking AIDS.
And that didn't happen for at least, based on my calculation, 9 minutes, where Mr. Green was left alone. And then when he wasn't left alone and he tried to get over onto his side, another trooper pushed him down using his foot against the lower back and buttocks of Mr. Green. And I didn't understand that. There was absolutely no reason for that. Under no circumstances should Mr. Green have been drugged by his ankle shackles. That was malicious, sadistic, completely unnecessary. And the officer that did it's going to have to be held accountable.
Donald Green died during his arrest.
We have tackled many.
Let's remember, the official police report was he died in a car accident in a tree. Now, they've amended the police report, of course, at this point. There's another really crazy twist to this story. One of the police officers involved in that video, which is the very heavily edited version to Mama KDM's point, is one of the police officers involved in that died karmically in a motor vehicle accident. I'm not making this up. It's just stunning. No one in the Louisiana State Police has been arrested, charged, or suspended in this incident. They've known this video has been around for 2 years, and they've done nothing but try to cover it up and hide it. We have such a friggin' problem here in this country, and this stuff just keeps going on and going on and going on. Another story, the contrast to this. Birmingham, Alabama, 4 days ago. Guy shoots 2 people and kills them, white guy. Shoots 2 people and kills them in a dispute over a dog. Police come to his apartment to arrest him. They are immediately met by gunfire. 4 police officers are shot. 4. Like, have you even heard about this in Birmingham, Alabama? Like, who's even heard about this, right? The man who shoots at him is killed in an exchange of gunfire. So apparently there's your bar. You've got to shoot 4 police officers. Real interesting. We're now 4 days after this. The only thing we know is that the guy was white, but we haven't had a name released. We're not crucifying him in the court of public opinion because, well, of course we're not, because, he's a white suspect. He was having a bad day, right? Was he having a bad day? Is that what it was? Was he mentally ill? Like, what excuse do we use here? And the thing that me's with this, right? Where's the Blue Lives Matter folks? Where are they, right? It's like, it's just crickets, right? It's crickets. And of course it is, because Blue Lives Matter is totally bullshit. We know that by what's going on in Washington, D.C. today, with only 35 Republicans going, why, yes, we should have a commission to review what happened on 1/6. Boy, we were upset about 4 people in Benghazi. Apparently, we just want to sweep under the rug, a few thousand people trying to overthrow the government on January 6th on the behest of a former social media icon. So you have that story out of Birmingham, Alabama. And then I segue and tie that into what's going on in D.C. today, into the whole Blue Lives Matter thing tied to that. Do have some good news out of Loveland, Colorado. If you don't remember the name Loveland, Colorado, that is where Karen Garner, 73 years old, dementia patient, had her shoulder dislocated, arm broken over $13.88 of flowers at a Walmart. She had dementia, and she walked out of the store without paying because she has dementia. And she was brutalized by police officers, all on body cam, who then showed the video to a couple of their coworkers, also all caught on camera, and they celebrated this as a good arrest. She suffered for 6 hours with a dislocated shoulder and broken arm before they were like, maybe we should take her to the hospital now. As somebody who has had a shoulder dislocated and collapsed my clavicle in like 4 places, I cannot fathom being handcuffed for 6 freaking hours before somebody goes, maybe we should have somebody look at you, let alone an Alzheimer's patient that doesn't know what's going on. 3 officers resigned, fired. They kind of did the resign, right? They did the resign, fired thing because if they resign, they could be a police officer somewhere else. 2 of those officers have been charged, criminally charged. One of the officers charged with a couple of felonies and multiple misdemeanors. Another officer, that was the one who physically broke her arm. The other officer that was on the scene has also been charged with 3 misdemeanors. So maybe Karen Garner is going to get some justice. You know, we're told you just have to comply. If you just comply, bad things won't happen to you. Well, there's a story out of Pittsburgh tonight about a wonderful man. This man waited in ambush with an AR-15 for his 2 neighbors to come home. And then he shot them both. And then as they were wounded, executed them. There's no other way to describe it. 2 headshots to both of them as they were wounded, executed them. Pittsburgh police, as recently as yesterday, was like, nah, he's not a suspect. I mean, we kind of talked to him, but we don't think. And what we think was happening is there were 3 additional murders over the weekend in Pittsburgh, and also a car was blown up. Well, this guy led them on a chase because then they were like, he's our boy. And they went and led him on a high-speed chase. And he was mass pulled over on a highway. And he was arrested. And he is now sitting in a jail cell, known to have murdered 2 people in cold blood, basically executed them, like literally executed with an AR-15. And is considered the prime suspect in 3 additional murders over the weekend and blowing up a car. And he has no remorse. He's like, I did it. Like he was telling the press, well, I did this stuff. And I'm like, why'd you do it? I was like, payback. It's payback. Well, here, let me show you what this guy looks like. Oh, look. He's an old white guy. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Old white guy got taken alive. Highway takedown, mass swarm, no panic there. Hell of a system we got. I'm going to play this other clip here. Oh, no, not a bruise or a scratch on him. And his arrest pictures are actually kind of comical. Let me go ahead and pull this one up. This is one of these cases where a Fox News host got caught saying the quiet part out loud. I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and full screen this one for you. Let me make sure, the volume's on. Let me go ahead. You're going to love this. They said the quiet part literally out loud.
These open positions. After he made the pronouncement, they got 60 applications.
Wow. Well, that's great, although it's kind of weird that you have to pay people to come to work. It just shows you how distorted the whole economy has become. Of course,
these open positions. After he made the pronouncement, they got 60 applications.
Wow. Well, that's great, although it's kind of weird that you have to pay people to come to work. It just shows you how distorted the whole economy has become. Of course,
these open positions.
It's so weird. You have to pay people to come to work. What will they think of next? Okay, so they gotta pay people to come to work. So the question is, Fox News, you decide. Have they gone full Marxist or have they gone full dystopian? Light up the comments. Let me know. What do you think? Marxist or dystopian? You have to pay people to work. Who'd have thought? Tying to the story about pay people to work, there was a story in the local news where Washington State is short 100,000 restaurant workers. 100,000. And the story went on to point out that the reason that they're short 100,000 restaurant workers doesn't have to do with unemployment, government, or blah, blah, blah. It's people who are in the restaurant industry aren't going back to the restaurant industry because the restaurant industry sucks ass. That's number one. Number two, the burnout rate is so high. It's like people that are even going back are like going, T cut our funding. They, I did not cut funding. We need more patrons. Then there's more funding. That's how it works. So there's people who went back and they're just like, they're getting abused by customers because everyone's short-staffed. People are just pissed off and people treat restaurant workers like dirt. And people don't want to go back to the industry because it's just awful. The other reckoning that's probably going to happen is that a number of fast food chains in particular have found that, as is Missy, I see your comment about Ohio is ending funding, as is about 18 other states. I know Montana is, Texas is, Florida is, Georgia is, about 18 states are cutting it. We have a story. I can go ahead and put that story. We have a story about this. We write stories. Y'all need to go to the website more. I got to find this story here. I know that it was, let's see, it's probably right before the panic buying gasoline story. Yeah, here it is. Let me go ahead and link to this story. Boom. There's a story that we have that's available up on our website about how hiring and wages are on a collision course because we're reaching what this term is called full employment as a country. Anyway, people don't want to go back to the restaurant industry because the restaurant industry sucks. And a number of people that were in the restaurant industry have just moved on to other jobs. And they're like, I don't want to go back to my crappy job at the restaurant industry. So kiss my ass. I'm not going back to that. King County may be releasing new guidelines on wearing masks. Within the county, there are rumors going around that King County is going to be like, yeah, you need to wear masks until June 30. It's like, I don't know. You know, I've tried to read the tea leaves for about a month on this now. And it's just been like, you know, we've just been throwing our hands up in the air as it's like, whatever. 20 people died of COVID today. And we're just used to it now, which is just stunning to me. So on the other side of the coin, another thing in the news that has come out, the border for the Canada and the United States was supposed to potentially reopen on May 21, and that ain't happening. They've pushed it out another month. But what's interesting, it isn't because of our infected asses. It's because the Canadians are all infected. So that's why the border is closed. We're like, we don't want your Canadian cooties. So anyway, that's what is... that's why that's closed. On the subject of COVID numbers and Canadian cooties, one of the other things that is going on is that the number of cases being detected in the state of Washington does continue to go down. There were 850 cases yesterday. We were tracking well over 1,000 cases a day a couple of weeks ago. And the data is kind of undeniable. The numbers are going down. The other thing is, which was interesting, had we stuck with the Healthy Washington plan and had phases, Pierce County would have just slid over the line to stay in phase 2. Their numbers are still really bad. They're not great. But their numbers are trending very slowly in the right direction. Another thing I found interesting, I found this thing on the web where you could look at the different states, all 50 states. I didn't click on all 50. I didn't have the time for that. Yes, Canadian cooties. Rashi's in the house. Rashi, you have no work. We're OG. There's nothing for you to edit tonight. We're OG. Unless you just like find a clip and you're like, oh, that's funny as shit. I want to go ahead and clip that. But otherwise, then you were just totally OG tonight. Okay. Ivanka Trump says people chose a new career. Yeah, I know exactly. I saw that about Taiwan. And of course, the whole thing about Taiwan shutting down, where there's all the semiconductor shortage, it's like that's just another knee to the groin in that whole area there. Back to what I was saying, though, about the COVID numbers. The COVID numbers are improving in very, very slowly here in the state of Washington. Another thing that is going on, I'm going to go ahead and pull this story up, put it up on the screen. No, not that story. I want to pull this story up here. I'm going to pull this one up on the screen. And then let me go ahead and we'll slide the transition over. Boom. Okay, this is over here from Como. Republicans fear Arizona private election audit will come back to haunt them. Now, here is the important thing. This is what I have, the text that I have highlighted there. I'll go ahead and make that a little bigger maybe so you could see it. This is not from the AP. This isn't from Como. This is a Sinclair broadcast group. This is the thing that people are upset about Como and Sinclair Communications of doing these forced stories. They're stories, but really what they are is they're editorial pieces that are masquerading as stories. Basically, if you want to go to Como, if you want to read this story, Republicans fear Arizona private election audits will come back to haunt them. Basically, it is a Sinclair Communications puff piece, I say puff piece in quotes, about what a shit show the Arizona recount is and what a circus it is and what complete bullshit it is and how it is hurting the credibility of the Republican Party. So the MAGAs, the election stolen people, they've lost Sinclair Communications. It's like, when you've lost Sinclair, when you've lost Sinclair, what? Yes, exactly. K variable. This is a must-run story. That's exactly right. So even Sinclair has come out against the Arizona audit. There it is on the screen. You can see it yourself. They've even come out against the audit. Like, this is a cluster. You know what? I don't have to watch the F-bombs things. Otherwise, I would have dropped the F-bomb. Yeah, so they've come out against the audit. The other thing that's come out in the audit is that Cyber Ninjas has had to come out and go, yeah, I know we said that the stuff was all lost, and we said that, and Donald Trump said it, and everybody who thinks the election was stolen said it, and we're really sorry because no, they didn't lose the data. We have the data. And we were idiots and we weren't looking in the right place in the computer for the data. And we're really sorry for doing that. It's just such a complete cluster down there. And basically, the Arizona Republican Party is just stop this. The other thing is they are way over budget. They're only being paid $150,000 to do this. And Cyber Ninjas are we're so over budget. We just we don't know. We're going to talk a little bit about Durkin's missing text tonight. There's actually a lot of stuff going on. You're getting the random screen, OG random screen of consciousness, on the sidewalk guy. Totally just a grift. 100. Someone actually reads the ticker. OzBobby213 reads the ticker. That's fantastic. I will talk about the cat and the cookie a little bit later. But I do actually, we will segue into the texts. We have a story. I don't know if that story will come out tomorrow. We wanted the story to come out today. And just, I don't have enough resources and time to do the story. We may have the story come out tomorrow. It may be all the way out to Monday before that story comes out. We had a chance to interview Toby Nixon, and Toby Nixon, people in Kirkland like that. Toby, our city councilor, Toby. Toby spent years on a state committee on the retention of data, and I don't want to overstate his role, but he was heavily involved in the writing of guidance and rules for how the government should retain data. And we were able to interview Toby specifically to what is going on in Seattle and with the missing text. The other thing is we have statements from various mayoral candidates on their views on what is going on with that. And we're kind of doing our own analysis. If you follow our Twitter feed, then you already know I've been asking these questions. And I talked off the record with one of the mayoral candidates. I'm not going to say who, because the conversation was off the record. And we talked, I don't want to say at length, but we talked for a few minutes off the record. And like the critical window where texts are missing from Chief Scoggins, former Police Chief Best, Chief Scoggins, the fire chief, Mayor Durkin, and about 5 additional high-ranking officials in the Seattle Police Department who are unnamed at this point. Can't help but wonder if one of them's Mike Solon. You just can't help but wonder. And of course, Lieutenant Diamond comes to mind. Immediately comes to mind because he, head of at that time he was Sergeant Diamond, but he was head of all the bicycle ops. And there's a couple other, and I know I'm throwing dispersions out there, but they're just, these are some names just immediately pop up in your head on like, you just gotta wonder if their text disappeared too. The texts that are missing are from June. Well, they go before June 1, but for the critical part of CHOP and the Western Barricade, June 1 to June 25. After June 25, they have texts. If you look at that window, there's critical things where Chief Scoggins, former Chief Best, and Mayor Durkin are heavily involved in. Who ordered the evacuation of the East Precinct, and why is this a friggin' state secret? This is like Area 51. Where are the aliens buried? Why? What are they hiding on the evacuation order for the East Precinct? Who are they protecting? And why are they protecting them? Because it just doesn't even make sense. I mean, it's almost a year now. The city is probably to the point of meh. But there's a couple of people that if they did give the order, that I don't think the city would go, meh. And I think there's one name that everybody bubbles up to the top. I'm going to put on my journalistic hat, and I am not going to say who that person is, but I know someone's just going to freaking put it up in the comments because they know who I'm talking about there. So you have that issue. You have the issue on the orders for, the tear gas and who was involved with that. Chief Scoggins, according to a KUOW in-depth report, was heavily involved in negotiating with Raz Simone in providing security without the police and CHOP. And there's these infamous videos of Raz handing out guns and yada, yada, and all this other stuff. Well, all those texts disappeared. So what conversations were going on there? Andre Taylor played this increasing role and ended up, becoming the street czar for a while at $150,000+ a year. All those texts are gone with Andre Taylor. Texts with people like Virginia Beach, those are gone. Then leading up to that meeting on the 27th, this disastrous community meeting, which was just a total setup. We filmed the briefing. This is when we were just starting kind of this transition of where I was making this conscious decision of, am I going to be a protest streamer, an activist streamer, or am I going to really move in a journalistic direction? And I started midway through CHOP moving more in a journalistic direction. And so we were there among Como and Cairo and everybody else with the good camera when Omari Salisbury became the spokesperson for this 627 meeting, because Mayor Durkin was not allowing the press in the meeting. Omari was initially allowed in the meeting to live tweet it, and then he was cut off from live tweeting the meeting. Why? And he went out there and was like, look, they read these 5 demands, but it's either stuff that's already happened or stuff that's at a federal or state level. And Jenny Durkin was just like, well, that's done. And that was done. And I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this. So I've met your demands. You need to go home now. And of course, everyone's like, who came up with these demands? Well, where are the texts? Because the texts might tell us who was playing the chess pieces there. And then there's the other big question, which is what blew all of this up on the missing texts in the first place: the murder of Lorenzo Anderson. And then what happened in the seconds, minutes, and hours after the murder of Lorenzo. Because what we know, again, and I'm going to give huge kudos to KUOW, they did a really in-depth timeline of what happened on the early morning of June 20th, right? It happened just after the 19th. I'm getting technical and calling it the very early morning. The June 20th happened in the middle of the night with the murder of Lorenzo, because what we learned from KUOW is that Seattle Fire Department did not go to the designated rendezvous point that had been set up with the medics that were working in CHOP. We also know from the videos, because the Seattle police was, well, they wouldn't let him in. Everyone was agitated. It was hot, but there were streamers there. And we saw the video. And what does the video show? It shows a bunch of people begging for the police and the fire department to come in and help Lorenzo. And then the medics make their own decision because he is bleeding out, and they drive him off. And I believe I want to say it's Future Crystals that shot that video on the 19th. If I'm wrong, light me up in the comments, but I think it was Future Crystals that got that video on the 19th. Where are those texts? And that's what blew this up, because the family is suing over the death of Lorenzo, and that's when we discovered, well, the texts are missing. Now, Mayor Durkin's position is she didn't know. She had her phone set to delete her texts after 30 days. She doesn't know how that happened. She doesn't know who did it. Brandy Cruz did an interview on Fox Q13 with Mayor Durkin. And I will say Brandy Cruz asked some moderately, she wasn't like, but, she wasn't throwing softballs there either in that interview. People watch me know, because I bag on Brandy Cruz all the time, but I will give the devil credit when the devil deserves credit. It was a decent interview. She asked the right hard questions. And one of the questions that she asked, who put your phone on 30 days? Well, I don't know. And what I've been told is there's only one person that could have put that phone on delete texts after 30 days, and that's Jenny Durkin. And then here comes into the fundamental problem. In the case of Jenny Durkin, all of her texts from August of 2019 to June 25th, 2020 are missing. Now, it would be one thing if her texts were missing from June 1 to June 25, and then all of a sudden that really screams cover up, right? So her texts are missing from August of 2019. But then what's the cover up? And I think this is something that people are missing on where the cover up is here. Because in order for us to believe that Mayor Durkin didn't know that her texts weren't being saved, we then have to believe that nobody from August of 2019 to July of 2020 ever made a public information request that included seeing the texts of the mayor. That's what we have to believe. And it's impossible to believe that. We know it's not true. So now the question is, why the cover-up, how deep the cover-up, and why did this cover-up start in August of 2019, and how in such a technologically oriented city, the home of Amazon, Microsoft across the lake, huge Google operation here, huge Facebook operation here, growing Apple footprint here, and multiple security companies here. And you're going to look us in the eye and go, City Hall and the city of Seattle didn't understand records retention for cell phones? It's a really hard pill to swallow. And then when you tie that in, where you have Chief Scoggins going, well, I can't get on my phone because I forgot my password, which is borderline BS, because on a managed IT device, there's probably no such thing as I forgot my password. And then Chief Best, and then 5 or 6 additional leaders in the Seattle Police Department, and it all conveniently happens during this period of intense civil unrest and the evacuation of the East Precinct. Pam, what they're trying to do is going to other people where, say, Jenny Durkin may have texted somebody else and then recover them off of those devices. But then Jenny Durkin's texting Chief Best. Chief Best, we can't recover her texts either. Chief Best and Scoggins are texting each other about Raz Simone and security. We can't recover those texts. I don't, it's like, I don't care if you're an insurrectionary anarchist, burn it all down, and you think I'm a friggin' chud because you think I'm too liberal, or if you are a chud, all the way on the other end of the spectrum, thin blue line, blue lives matter, blah, blah, blah. Everyone should be pissed off about this. This transcends politics. This is corruption at a really, really high level. It's just such a hard pill to swallow when you start connecting the dots. And Courtney went there. Courtney is the first person to go there. Courtney just went there. Then I think it's a valid question. I think it's a very, very valid question. You know, and it's like, what are they doing? Are they waiting to run out the clock so that key figures in this retire or, you know, or go on to other things? And then it's like, well, they left the force and there's nothing we can do now. Well, we know this cop in Louisiana beat this guy, Donald Green, to death, but he died in a car accident. So what can we do? There's no justice now. Hey, breaking news, shooting in Maple Valley. Not making that up. Breaking news. It's like all over the place. Investigation underway, shooting in Maple Valley. Another story, actually, I meant to, catalytic converter theft just through the roof in the area. And the problem isn't just the people that are stealing catalytic converters. The problem is the companies that are buying the catalytic converters, and they're not being bought locally. What they're doing is they're being bought on the internet. Catalytic converters are getting stolen like crazy because of the precious metals that are inside. There is this precious metal shortage. Ironically, part of that precious metal shortage is being driven by the semiconductor shortage and being driven by the increasing desire to own electric cars because the precious metals are used in these things. And so catalytic converters are worth a lot of money. Local scrap yards generally are not buying them because the local scrap yards, if somebody's showing up with 10 catalytic converters going, hey, dude, I got 10 catalytic converters and I'm feeling really itchy and a little anxious right now. How much can I get for them? They're going to be going, yeah, no. People are buying them online. That's what's going on. It's the online buyers. And I'm not making excuses here for people that are desperate for money because, they have drug problems or they're desperate for money. Remember, let's go back to Fox News. They pay people to work? Who'd have thought? I thought pay was just for rich people. I still can't get over that video clip. Anyway, brothers out in Bremerton confront a guy who is stealing catalytic converters at their business. Two brothers, 51 and 54. They confront him at gunpoint. The guy is like, okay. You got me. Guy's cool. He's chill. So they're like, all right, sit your happy ass down. We've called the police. And instead they arm themselves essentially with a club. If you don't know what a floor jack is, they arm themselves with the metal removable pole from the floor jack. The guy goes nuts and stabs both the brothers. And then the police arrive. So the guy has been arrested, multiple charges now. Both brothers are going to survive. Stay cool, honey buddy. On the sidewalk, guy just won the internet tonight. Here's Don Pardo to tell you what you've won. Another big news that came out right before went on the air tonight. Amazon has been hit with not one, not two, not three, not four, 5. Amazon has been hit with 5 discrimination lawsuits tonight. 5 of them, including 2 in Washington State. Discrimination over race, discrimination over gender, and this is piling on to the additional accusations and cases on the company. And part of the accusation is that Amazon has a culture of protecting lousy bosses, for no other better way to put it. So that is also breaking news tonight. You can find that on multiple sites. There's another story I wanted to talk about. It's escaping me at the moment, and I want to. I've got to find it. It's escaping me at the moment. I'll talk about that last because it's weather and it's cool. Wait. What's this? Oh, nothing. I'm trying to find this story. I closed it. I wanted to talk about it. And I think video shows woman spitting on restaurant employee after being told to wear a mask. Why don't people want to work in restaurants for $9 an hour? I wonder why. Oh, wow. All right. Totally unrelated. I'll be watching this later because I love nuclear weapons porn. Apparently, the government has released like more videos from the 1960s of hydrogen bomb testing. So I love that stuff. I hate to admit it, but I do. Did you know that the United States had like its own Chernobyl, its own mini Chernobyl? Like, who knows that? Did you know that? Put in the comments if you know that. That'd be like a whole amazing story to tell some other night, not tonight. I cannot find this story, so I'm going to move to this. But seriously, put in the comments if you know this. The United States had its own mini Chernobyl. No, not 3 Mile Island. No, because 3 Mile Island was not a catastrophic explosion and meltdown. Nope, not Hanford. Nope. Not 3 Mile Island. Nope. It's not 3 Mile Island, and it's not Hanford. The Love Canal is not in Ohio. Nope. It's not 3 Mile Island. Love Canal was in New York. Not 3 Mile Island. Not in New Mexico. Not in Tennessee. Nope. I love this. Y'all are throwing out guesses. Keep throwing out those guesses. It was years ago, yes. I would say most people were not born. Not in California. Nope, not West Valley in New York. You give up? No, not San Onofre. Boom! Tavert 01's one of the research reactors in Idaho. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. We have a winner. We have a winner. That is correct. SL1. It was in Idaho, outside of Idaho Falls. And that was the United States' Chernobyl. The reactor there, SL1, I'm going to get into this real quick. But yeah, Tavert 0 got it. It's outside of Idaho Falls, Idaho. The site is, I believe you can actually drive to the site now. The reactor was a really small reactor, really small. Okay, so this is what was going on. 1958, United States Navy builds the USS Nautilus, first nuclear-powered submarine. They take the Nautilus, they go under to the North Pole with it. Puts the whole world on notice, like, we can put a submarine anywhere we want. We can go underwater as long as we want. We make oxygen, we got power. We don't have to surface. We can stay underwater for months, which in 1958 was, whoa, crap, right? It's Cold War shit. So lots of competition in the military, if people don't know this. And so the Air Force was like, well, we want something nuclear powered. So the Air Force started experimenting with nuclear powered bomber aircraft. That's a whole separate friggin' story. The Army, of course, is like, well, we want something nuclear powered. So what they decided was they were going to try to develop very small reactors. Yes, Jonas, that's right. Totally pinned to the ceiling. Yes. So look at this. Some people here know about this now. So they built a very small reactor called SL1 in Idaho. It only had 5 control rods. That's it. Chernobyl had 211. This is a really small reactor. I believe it made 20,000 kilowatts of electricity. The idea behind this experiment was you could be somewhere really remote, like the Arctic, or out in the middle of the desert somewhere. You could build one of these reactors, and that reactor could provide unlimited power to a military base or a forward operating base without having, diesel fuel or refueling. Because remember, at this point, they don't have viable solar. They really don't have viable wind at this point. So we could build this, and we could just have this very simple reactor. So they had 3 dudes, no officers, 3 dudes. None of them were even over 30 years old. And one of the things it has in common with Chernobyl is a cold start reactor. So in other words, Chernobyl, you can fully shut down and fully restart, which that's like no-no in nuclear reactors. And I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I guess the reason it's kind of a no-no with nuclear reactors is because people can fuck up the shutdown and restart sequence, and really bad things happen. So you're going to find this part really amazing. If you were assigned to SL1, it meant you screwed up. This was not good duty. These were not 3 nuclear physicists in 1961 playing with this reactor. These were 3 screw-ups. And the control rods for the nuclear reaction are handled manually. You grab the rod and you lift or you push the rod, and that is how you control it. And it's one rod. One rod controls everything. And the distance, if you're fully turned off to 20,000 kilowatts electricity, about that much, 4 inches. That's about 4 inches. If you go past 4 inches, then you're starting to head towards criticality. And if you go full critical, you get a complete instantaneous meltdown, explosion, steam, everything. You get Chernobyl. Now, there is one other thing about SL1. The control rods had a nasty habit of getting stuck. As a matter of fact, they were documented to have been stuck 63 previous times before this accident. And so at 2 occasions, they got so stuck, they had to beat them with pipe wrenches to get them unstuck. There's all sorts of wild rumors about, this was a murder-suicide, and one guy was screwing another guy's wife, and he was pissed off, and he wanted to take him out. And there's nothing to support these wild-ass rumors. What they think very simply happened was the one dude, the rod got stuck, it wouldn't move. He gave it a really good hard yank, and he went way past 4 inches on that control rod. How much in 4 millionths of a second. 4 millionths of a second. They went from 0 to 22 gigawatts. That's a lot of friggin' zeros. Remember, this thing was made to do 22,000 kilowatts. They went to 22 gigawatts. And then it went back to 0 again. And the reason it went back to 0 again, it had a total meltdown. It exploded, and it instantly killed 2. Somebody made the comments about one guy was plastered to the roof. That is correct. He was impaled and stuck to the roof, and he was up there for a week while they were like, how do we get his body down? What do we do here? So, yes, that's so funny, Corey, that you say the 22 gigawatts, because that is immediately what I thought was Back to the Future when I saw that. So this facility, this is like totally like a Chernobyl. This facility was set up to have an automated fire alarm if something went on. And the fire station in Idaho Falls would get a very distinct, like 2 rings and then a 3rd ring. And that was trouble at the nuclear power plant, which I'm just like, wait a minute. You mean that just the civilian fire department showed up to this military base and this reactor, and the three stooges are the guys who are operating it. And the wife is just calling the guy like at the military base. And like, really? Like, this whole story is crazy. The fire department had been out there on 2 false alarms that day earlier. So now the fire department's like, you got to be kidding me. All right, we're going out to a false alarm. Yes, it is. It's gleeful. I love it. So the fire department goes out there, and they pull out their Geiger counters. They're walking up, and the guys go walk up to the door, and they come back, and they're like, there must be something wrong with the Geiger counter. And they're like, why? Just like, because the Geiger counter is saying there's radiation everywhere. They're like, all right, go get the other Geiger counter. So they go up with the other Geiger counter, and they're like, oh no, there's radiation everywhere. There's like a lot of radiation. And of course they do what anybody would normally do when faced with a Geiger counter screaming at them that there is a ton of radiation. They open up the door anyway into the reactor area because they're like, whatever, we're here. And upon opening up the door into the reactor area, they're like, oh, this is bad. This is like really bad. And they could see 2 of the operators. One is really in a state of what's left of them, and another one very severely injured. Of course, they close the door back, and they're like, we're going to need to call people that know what to do because this is out of our pay scale. So at least they had that part right. Now, here's the part where it gets really wacky, where this becomes literally like Chernobyl. The inside is so radioactive that they had volunteers to go in, first of all, to try to rescue the 2 and find the 3rd person, and then also just kind of evaluate the state that the inside is at. They're still trying to figure out, like, what the hell happened here. And the volunteers would go in for 60 seconds. That was as long as they were allowed to go in, because anything longer than that would be no bueno exposure to radiation. Just like in Chernobyl in 1986, 25 years later. Experimental restart of a reactor, just like at Chernobyl, 25 years later. I won't get into. They were eventually figured out how to get the one poor guy off the ceiling. It's gallows laughter. The other thing is there's this Robot Chicken episode where they have a guy in the ceiling, and now I get that because Seth Green and we would either hate our guts or we would have amazing conversations. There's no in between. Seth Green just seems to, like, his brain seems to operate a lot like mine. I don't know exactly what that says. And they have a thing where they're making fun of Cobra Commander, and they're like, we haven't had an X in a long time. And it's like, yeah, we got so-and-so up in the ceiling, and they show this blob up in the ceiling. It's like, we don't know how to get him down. We throw a tennis ball at him every now and then. It was a terrible explosion, and I now thinking that, how did he get up from the explosion, Dora? It completely exploded. Now, unlike Chernobyl, the external building survived the explosion. Chernobyl wasn't actually built like in a vessel to survive the kind of blast that it had. That's why everything blew up. There wasn't this inner outer setup. This one had an inner outer setup. So he just ended up impaled and plastered on the ceiling when the control rod that he was lifting blew up right through him and impaled him in the ceiling. But between the steam, the heat, the force, the radiation, there's like nothing left there. So anyway, that's why I have this giggles, because I have this picture of this Robot Chicken episode with them. Like, yeah, we throw a tennis ball up there, and he still hasn't come down. Anyway, they figure out how to get the body down. The 3 men that died, their bodies were not given back to the families because they were so radioactive. So they were buried in lead-lined coffins, encased in steel, encased in concrete in a nuclear waste dump. That's how radioactive their body was. They did autopsies on their bodies. I'm not going to get into that and what they had to do to safely do the autopsies on them and to reach conclusion on why they died. The entire facility was completely disassembled and decontaminated. Everything is buried 1,600 feet away from where it happened. And I looked at some maps, and it appears that you actually could just drive up to this site, and where the reactor, the equipment, the fire equipment, the topsoil has all been buried and encased underground. And the physical site where SL1 was is about 1,600 feet away. And it's outside of Idaho Falls by about 20-ish miles, if that. And there's still actually a bunch of research facility, Department of Energy research facilities out there. The other thing that happened it ended the Army nuclear reactor program. That was the end. That's number one. It ended up with a design change for reactors around the world, which was one control rod cannot control everything. You cannot have it that one control rod can create criticality. So that was one of the other things that happened. But what's super fascinating about this, and I know I've totally rat-holed on like something totally not in our lane, is you have this accident, this disaster at Chernobyl. Now, not one control rod, multiple control rods, but the mechanisms of what happened at Chernobyl and how it happened, and a lot of the same mistakes with the fire department, and kind of like Geiger counter going, it's good, it's okay, go put out fire, and then the whole, hey, you can only be in there 60 seconds, in, out, you're being voluntold, like all of this stuff. The only difference, of course, in the United States, this happened on a really, really small, tiny scale. This is a very small reactor, where Chernobyl is a massive reactor with 211 control rods. Dora, I don't know. Like, what I've read is, I see your thing about Chernobyl factual. I watched the series. My understanding of what I've heard, it was very well researched. It was very well done. There's some things that were embellished. That's what I've read. Certainly at the end, there's some things you learn that are very surprising. I will say, when they were killing, it's funny, my Dr. Mrs. Malcontent was going to watch it with me. She only got maybe about 3/4 of the way through the first episode. She's like, I can't watch this. And then I ended up binge watching it. And she came in like a few hours later. And literally when she came in, they were, if you haven't seen Chernobyl, they're killing the dogs. They're killing all the dogs. And she's like, how is it? And I just lost it. I'm like, it is horrible. And I just completely lost it. Like literally, I just started crying like a baby. Like, this is awful. I do know the miners mining naked, and having to do all the hand tools to mine under to try to prevent to try to cool it down that is true. That I do know is true. The conversation, that the guy from the Politburo that kind of came out, where they were trying to razzle dazzle him with, oh, that's burnt concrete on the roof. There's nothing there. And he's like, look, I might be a dumb guy out of Moscow, but guess what? I worked at a concrete factory and I know concrete. And that's not concrete on the roof, because burnt concrete doesn't look like that. And I'm done talking to you guys. That's it. It's done. The guy that was just in denial, the whole operator thing. What I read about Chernobyl is that he was actually an even worse bastard than what he was portrayed in the show, and he had no remorse, never took accountability for everything. Yeah, the robots got killed because what happened was they lied to Western Europe. I think the robots came from Germany. They lied to Western Europe on the level of the radiation. They weren't truthful. And so when they said, hey, the radiation's at this level, Germany says, hey, we've got a robot that can work at that level. It's right at the top, and the robot went in there and the robot was like, fuck this, down, out. So Chernobyl's cooking again. I don't know. Maybe that's where this all came from. Chernobyl's cooking again. I don't know if people saw that in the news. They're describing it as kind of like, a barbecue grill where the coals have kind of started up again. And it may just fizzle out on its own, or it may blow up in a couple of years. You can look that happy news up on the internet. Last thing I'm going to talk about, totally went so much deeper on SL1. I don't know. I just learned about that, and I just thought it was freaking cool. And if you want to learn or read more about it, you can go onto YouTube and do like a search, like Idaho SL1. There's a couple of really good documentaries that are up on YouTube. You know what? Let me share a link. If you guys want to watch let me find the link. I'm going to drop a link for this guy. Give me a second here. No. If I can't find it real quick. No, that's not it either. This one has thousands and thousands of views. Nope, that's not it. I'm going to scroll just a little bit more and then I'm going to give up. Shoot. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might have found it.
Previously gathered evidence indicated...
Yeah, I found it.
The SL1 reactor and the buildings that housed it were located at the National...
All right, let me drop this here in the thing. If you want to learn more about SL1, go ahead and watch that documentary. It's really worth 25 minutes of your time if you just found the summary I just gave you, found that fascinating. Go ahead and watch that documentary. And they also have like a patron and stuff. If you really like it, consider throwing like $1 or $2 in his tip jar. I think it's very, very well done. And I've just put a link in there. It's Idaho SL1, and the name of the video is... That's the name of the video. What caused America's first nuclear meltdown. So if you can't click the link, at least you could see the name of the video and know to go look for it. Last thing I want to talk about, looks like hurricane season is going to have an early start for the 7th year in a row. Hurricane season is supposed to start in June 1. The last 6 years, it has started in May, where we have named storms. There's an area of interest that is outside of Bermuda that has a 60% chance of developing into something tropical within the next 5 days. So if that were to happen, we will have our 7th year in a row with donate. It's a Marxist. It's a Marxist thing. Love you, Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent. But there's a 60% chance that is going to turn into a hurricane. Or I should say a named storm. Not a hurricane. Walk that back. Named storm. Anyway, I think I've gone past an hour. I have. It's like 9:20. I went like on the whole SO1 thing there. Twitch shows up here. Oh, you're on Facebook. I'm like, I could see everybody. Okay, I totally get it. Kimberly is on Facebook and cannot see. Yeah, everything is cross-posted except for on Facebook. Facebook is on Facebook Island. Yeah. All right, I think that's going to be it for tonight. No show tomorrow night. That was already previously announced. Jennifer is taking the week off. I have the cat. I thought I was going to escape about the cat. People are asking about the cat on the crawler. Okay. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent. The cat acted like a 3-year-old today. Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent brought a oatmeal raisin cookie. A little surprised. It's not her MO. Brought her oatmeal raisin cookie home with her. And she was on a conference call. The cookie is on the dining room table with her. And the cat is meowing and howling at her. And our cat is a carbohydrate addict. And the cat jumped up on the table and stole. We're not talking cookie. We're talking cookie. Stole the cookie off the table. Got a couple of bites in before she could intercept the cookie. Now the story gets better. The cat comes upstairs, because I'm upstairs working, and starts yowling at me. And I'm like, what the hell is your problem? So the cat's acting like a 3-year-old. The cat is like, Dad, 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 Dad. What? Can I have a cookie? What do you mean, can you have a cookie? Oh, but I can't have cat food for you if you can't have a cookie. Fine. And then I found out later that, he had stolen the cookie. And I was like, oh my God. So he was totally in 3-year-old mom, like 3-year-old mode. Mom says I can't have a cookie. I'm going to go ask Dad, could I have a cookie? Dad, will you feed me? I don't know. I don't want the can of cat food. I want the cookie. And then the other thing that's really weird is his kryptonite is the Pillsbury Crescent rolls in the can. We make them like twice a year. That's it, because they're terrible for you. It's just a can of chemicals, but they're tasty chemicals, right? I mean, they really are. They're friggin' addiction in that can thing. And this is his addiction. Like if we make we make those like for Thanksgiving, and I'll break off a chunk and be like, here you go. Here your thing. I'll just be like, oh my God. We have to keep our bread in the microwave, because if we leave a loaf of bread on the kitchen counter, he will eat the loaf of bread. Only if it is cheap, nasty bread. So this is the part where we're confused. Because we looked at the ingredients on the oatmeal cookie, and there really wasn't anything that jumped out at us where it was like, oh my God, this is like terrible for you, right? So, because that's what he gravitates to. It's like, it's a freaking oatmeal cookie. What the hell does he want with oatmeal? What? Anyway, so that's where I totally forgot that people reading the ticker down below. I'm throwing something there on the ticker on purpose to see if people are actually friggin' reading the thing. All right. I have a crazy long ass day tomorrow. This was OG style. It's kind of cool. I haven't done OG style like this in a really long ass time. And I know we just kind of rapid fired off a bunch of stories, and I shared a story about SL1 in Idaho. Mike said, I want a PB&J so bad. And on the subject of bread, the bread that we had in the microwave went moldy. We have no bread. There's no PB&J in my future here tonight. I am not friggin' going to get anyway. Yeah, I didn't even do my face up. This is old school OG style. I didn't even move a light in here. I'm just using the overhead light. Total OG style. All right. No show on Thursday. We're back on Monday. We are going to have a bunch of interviews that we did with mayoral candidates, and Lori Jenkins, who is the Speaker of the House. We have a ton of those interviews coming up. We have our story that'll be coming up on the techs and, the investigation that we've been doing and pulling from different sources, and talking to some of the mayoral candidates, and also then talking to Toby Nixon. We'll have that interview. Please, if you're not a patron or you're not subscribing or you haven't thrown some Venmo in the jar, please consider supporting us. It's how we can stay independent. It's how we can stay paid ad free. We really don't want to be beholden to advertisers. There's not enough room in the fridge. But I'm seeing that stuff. So, I think with that, I'm going to say good night, everybody. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals, including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa. Fuck you.
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's